Hey, I know what you want, and I got what you need.
Jade Remover! Revengeseekerz! Ah!
Hello one, hello all, it's the gothiest ghost of them all, Casper in the flesh, and it's time for a review of Jade Remover Revengeseekerz. This is the fourth album of singer, songwriter, producer, multi-instrumentalist Jade Remover, who's been building her catalog up for quite a while now, like since the beginning of the 2010s, starting in 2021. It's close to the beginning, with Teen Week and Frailty, but Frailty was really the one that caught my ear, like how she was able to put these creative amalgamations of various sorts of pop and electronic music with glitch pop, noise pop, emo pop, hyper pop, which I thought was a creative set of tracks. And honestly, when it came to flow and sequence in the album, she really had that down packed. However, the vocals didn't exactly stick out to me. I didn't really think they were as strong as they could have been. But then in 2023, dropping Census Designated, which honestly I would say was a bit of an improvement, but there were a lot of tracks on there that were mixed that left a lot to be desired. However, I wouldn't deny the highlights on that album, and it was definitely a departure from what she was doing on her first record and her second. And then dropping this side project called Venturing with the album Ghost Holding, which I reviewed very positively and I felt was a very decent creative start for that side project, with these touches of psychedelia, grunge, lo-fi, and the whole thing felt like some sort of rock dream, like some sort of fever dream, if you will. And I can honestly say the rollout to this album has definitely been an interesting one, due to the fact that a lot of tracks that I thought were going to be on the album or make it to an album does not land here. There's only 2 tracks here that land on this LP. But given how those tracks are very like dreamy and very beautiful, but also very pop oriented and accessible, it wouldn't exactly make sense for them to land here. However, that does not mean that they are just existing for the sake of existing. No, and who knows, they may land on a record in the near future, who knows. But those tracks are actually sampled on this record. But such as the singles that did land on this record, like JRJR, Dancing with Your Eyes Closed, those totally make sense in the context of this record. But as I mentioned before, a piece of the singles that didn't make this thing do land here. Not only incorporating samples from the singles that didn't make it, but also Jane's earlier work too. As Jane samples a majority of her work, but she does it in a way that leaves these tracks to be very colossal, layered, crushing. Perfect example I would say would be the opener, Twice Removed, as she samples these little ascending harmonies that go by very quick. Like, I would honestly be insane to tell you every single sample that lands on this record that she uses. Like, there's just so much here that you would have to pick up on, you would have to look up, you would have to revisit her work again and again and again. Like, it would be honestly impossible, or to make this video longer than it has to be, for me to catch and to tell you every sample on here. But I can honestly say it's pretty sick how she could take pieces of her work and turn this into a very futuristic, monstrous sound collage, and also make anthemic bangers out of these, and also ballads too. Going more into Digicore territory, with elements of hard dance, bass house, rage, industrial hip-hop. Especially how they blend so well, and especially how in much disarray this album could leave you. Like, the destruction and the mayhem is so organized, but not in a sense to where it sounds formulaic. No, there's a method to this madness, but the way she does this, you wouldn't think there's a method, but there is. And she just lets these samples and lets these tracks just build and just live on their own. And she just fits it so well, as they're able to live lives on their own on numerous tracks here. And she's not just including her own work, but she's also including samples of just various miscellaneous things, also anime, video games, most notably the fucking Palkia Cry sample that lands on a majority of the tracks here. It's so distorted, it's so disguised that she could like get away with it, and it just lands on a majority of tracks here, most notably JRJRJR. So yes, these genres that she's using, these elements she's using, does live on their own merit, but she does it so layered and so precise and creatively done, intricately done, that they're actually in like a league of their own here. Like, this thing bangs like a Yeet or Playboi Carti album, while simultaneously having the yearning and the passion of like a Porter Robinson, with the swag of a Lil Uzi, while having the distorted chaos sampling of a Death Grips, but just as fun and energetic as a 100 Gex record. And I know that's a wide array of samples here. That's like one hell of an amalgamation, one hell of a mix. But honestly, if you've given this album a listen as much as I have, I don't think I'm too far off. All culminating into 12 tracks, 49 minutes, and a lot of these tracks run on builds. Also, multifaceted heavy hitters. Also, they managed to land some very eccentric, very out there, very outlandish bars here that live rent-free in my head. Like, Jesus never made it with a freak bitch. And the album kicks off with these rapid, ringing tones, along with these samples that are actually pulled from Jane's earlier catalog, which I am just now being introduced to, but mostly due to the fact that it was under another pseudonym, with these stuttering vocal samples over these hopeful, futuristic, Drain Gang-like electro synth layers, then escalating into this booming wall of distorted bass and big crushed drums that are just crashing over these MIDI horns, and then takes us into this super dense, freakish analog bass outro. It definitely does remind me of Travis Scott a little bit. The whole thing sounds like rage music, but made for aliens in an excellent way. There's PSYCHOBOOST with Detroit experimental rap extraordinaire Danny Brown, that begins with this thumping synth bass that gradually becomes more dense, more layered, more pulsating, and then goes right into Danny Brown's verse, which is very quick, but still effectively rapping and killing it over these sour chords that eventually create fuzzy bass and drums. And Danny and Jane's chemistry here is just fucking insane. And the track just takes you out with these pounding, fuzzed out, but still visceral rhythms on the outro. The song Star People, I will say, is probably the only song here I'm not too crazy about, mostly due to the fact it doesn't really have too much of a direction, doesn't really have too much of a pickup, and I get it, you do need a cool down moment, but I don't think it was done very interesting, as this track just sounds like a leftover from Venturing, and not in a good way. However, I do think later on the track list, they do compensate for that. Now, in terms of sequence, Jane is not just giving you these dimension hopping, head splitting tracks, but also making sure you are taking a journey, you are getting that album experience, as each track really does complement the next after the next, like on Experimental Skin, which has one of the catchiest tracks here. And that's the thing, like, there are tons of catchy hooks on this record, like especially this one. Come touch it, see no evil. Yeah, Jane did it better for sure, but these tracks do bang, these hooks are memorable. And definitely I would say the lo-fi rock inclusions do fit very well here, with its walls of endless distorted guitar drones, with these laser-like synths that do become more layered, more melodic as the track continues. And the outro, God, it's so pounding, it's so nocturnal, it's melodic. It's like going to a goth club in the future, and honestly, this is probably the most danciest outro I've heard on an electronic record this year. That leads us fantastically into the bright stuttering keys on the intro of Angels and Camo, which is a track I mentioned before. It really does show how much love and appreciation that Jane has for the art of sequencing. Like, she really does know how to segue an album, and she absolutely nails it here. She knows how to end a track, she knows how to begin a track, and she knows how to connect them together. They each begin with different pacing, but they just connect together perfectly. She does have different pacing, but she knows how to piece them together greatly throughout this whole record, which makes this thing one cohesive listen. And I know I kind of like trailed off there, but I just had to give my praising to the sequencing here. But the track alone is just filled with so much attitude, maximalist production. But also I love the rumbling bass, the rapid 808s. And funny as it may sound, as chaotic as these tracks could be, they definitely are uplifting. Like, I know this is kind of a stretch. I mean, I mentioned Porter Robinson before, but like the more I think about it, like this really does have the chaos and the intensity of a black metal record, like Liturgy, a black metal record that they would have put out. Obviously completely different genre, but I would say with how chaotic and how much mayhem that's here, you definitely do get the uplift as well. It's not just trying to beat you over the head with harsh dynamics, especially with the epic MIDI melodies throughout this thing. Vocally, I think Jane has improved massively. Like, she sounds more passionate, has more personality, has more range. Like, she definitely has more angst, more determination, definitely more grit here, more ferocity, and absolutely more confidence. There's so much conviction to when she sings, when she raps. Like when she says, "I can't let you bitches win." Not only that, but her range is certainly not limited here. And I absolutely love how she layers her vocals like on DREAMFLASHER. And in terms of production, there's so much variation of insanity and aggression that are coming right from the vibrating tones on this track. And I also gotta mention how absolutely abrasive and skull crushing this outro is on this record. Honestly, the most skull crushing, head splitting the outro on the whole entire LP. And Turn Up or Die, which absolutely lives up to the title, which is an insane bass house cut with like these spooky wailing synths that sound like they could have came from 2010 Lil Wayne. I could definitely tell that Jane Remover has listened to Wayne in the past. I could tell she's like a Cardi fan, because these did kind of land on like the last LP that Cardi put out, but I think she just does it so much better here. And I love the contrast of Jane singing and rapping in the background of these breakbeats. And the pounding, distorted drums and bass on the outro are great. And as chaotic as this track is, the switches and the change-ups elementally on this thing do make a lot of sense. And the vaporwave outro is absolutely a great touch. And the vocal and instrumental modulation on Dancing With Your Eyes Closed is totally unhinged, especially with the glitching and reversed melodies that land on this track. And honestly, this is made for one of the most tripped out, bugged out moments I've probably heard on a record all year. And FADEOUTZ, I would say, does kind of land in the ghost holding direction. However, I could say it's done tastefully well. I would actually say it's better than Star People. I think it really does master what Star People was trying to do. That starts with this moody, grungy intro that breaks into this melodic, dreamy, but chipper passage. And the pitched down, warped melodies here are, yes, freakish, but at the same time beautiful. Like, she really does find beauty in oddity, and I know I say that a lot with a lot of artists, but I definitely do think she just nails that completely here. And Professional Vengeance, which is another track that lives up to the fucking title, that has this very hyper video gamey electro start, and the spoken voice here, the voice sample, is like so deadpan in like a matter-of-fact type of way. Like, it almost reminds me of Wesley Willis. Please tell me you know who Wesley Willis is. But if you're watching this, you should know what I'm talking about. I hope you're familiar with this, as this thing does kind of like come off as rock and roll McDonald's just a little bit. I love the chip bit synth horn with the punchy grooves, delivering one of the most passionate vocals on the whole entire record. And God, I love the beautiful glistening synths over the crushing drums and bass. With machine gun fire like distortions here, like I can't tell if this is drums, if this is bass, but it is like firing at me. And it honestly just sounds like this track just took me the fuck out. And especially with how it goes like slow motion, has that very slow motion ending. Like, this thing feels like it's the last thing you hear before you just vanish. And Dark Knight Castle, which is a much needed cool down moment. Like, it's very grand, it's very ethereal, but yet it has like a forlorn touch to it. And honestly, I would say it's one of those tracks that really does evoke emotion. And don't get me wrong, I think a lot of these tracks could be emotional, but I feel like this is really the ballad here, the ballad that Jane honestly wanted to put out. As it digs more into deep, compelling lyrics, as the lyrical focus goes into very concerning and tragic territory. And the outro is so gargantuan. I feel with the way it swallows everything up on the track here, it does really read as finality. And the closer, which was also a single to this, JRJRJR, which has the most stickiest earworm hook here, JR, 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 as she really just sounds like she's desensitized lyrically, like feeling untrusting, but also finding acceptance in the fact that she's really not that close to anyone. She doesn't have any friends. She just has acquaintances or fuck buddies, like having no solid connections whatsoever, but again being acceptant of that, like having really no solid connections, but again finding acceptance with that. But I feel with how epic and in your face this track is, it definitely does complement the previous one, but not the most insane outro she could do sonically. I do think lyrically that this track does have a nice send-off, and I think pacing wise it sequentially makes sense. But overall, I found this thing to be intense, thrilling, creative, and an insane emotional ride. With great ideas, whether it's sonically, substance-wise. It's like Jane has really reached a point where she could release these off-the-wall, intense ragers, evoke powerful emotions while simultaneously giving you something to go off to, giving you bangers. It's like on here, she's definitely structured a world for me to visit, and I would like to visit again and again and again. Now, this album may not be for everyone, but if you've acclimated yourself to this type of sound, these type of genres, this type of culture, this album should definitely be for you. Like, if you could handle the noise, the intensity, or even if like you're new to this, just appreciate the layering and creativity and emotion that this brings. But again, if it's too loud, it's too chaotic for you, I get it. But it's definitely for me. And honestly, I think this is Jane's best record yet. I'm feeling a 4.5 out of 5 on this. But if you've given this a listen, what did you think? Did you love it? Did you hate it? Why? And that's it. My channel, my opinion, sincerely your critical plug. If you hate it, your view's still a dub. Shout out to my good friend Bizler, Hasan Piker, doing excellent work on his channel, really covering a lot of very important issues, bringing a lot of nuance, someone who is definitely a rebel of this time and definitely someone who you should definitely check out if you want to be locked in. I also want to give a shout out to John Scallion, Casey Corbit, and my Canadian buddy Shawn Cooper. So yeah, be a subscriber, that would be fire. Caspa, Gothic Ghost, Jane Remover, Revengeseekerz. Till we meet again.